Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Hey Joe, sorry to be leaving a message so late, but I just got a call from the corporate offices. I guess an older woman around her 70s called in and said that she saw your van in her neighborhood. She wants you to come by and show her the products. It sounds like a decent commission. I know it's your day off, but I figured you should be on this one rather than the other guys. Anyways, if you could get out there first thing, that'd be great. I entered her address into the system, so you'll be able to see it in the morning. Thanks. Fuck, man. Here I was hoping to sleep in today. Who needs a day off anyways? Not me, apparently. I can't afford one anyways. I sighed and I put down my keys. I guess there would be no late night gaming tonight as I'd planned. I have to make dinner and get to bed. I went to the kitchen and I rummaged around the pantry, but nothing looked good. I explored all the corners of the fridge, but there was surely nothing edible. I needed to go shopping when I got my next paycheck, but the commission pay would have to be good enough for me to buy a few more things. I had too many bills to pay. Bills before food. Gotta love Uncle Sam. My kitchen was barren, excluding a box of knockoff Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Hey, it was cheap and it involved no effort. I needed a new job, pronto. I scrubbed my crust-filled eyes and I let out a yawn. It was already 4:45 a.m. I felt like I only got 2 hours of sleep. If I ate something now, I wouldn't have anything to eat for dinner. I really needed the sale. I quickly showered and I got dressed, loosely combing my hair to make it seem like I was somewhat put together. Old ladies didn't care how you look as long as they saw the value in the product. I rushed out the door and got in the company's supplied van and opened the computer up. 44931 Willow Street. 1 hour and change away? I had never even been remotely close to this location. I closed my eyes, half hoping I'd fall asleep again, even if it was just for 5 minutes. I needed to suck it up and get there. Old women are senile. It doesn't matter if she thought she saw our company van. A sale was a sale. I begrudgingly opened my eyes and I started the van, just praying it would be a quick and lucrative sale. It wasn't often we would get people calling requesting us, so I was hoping this would be a slam dunk. As I drove closer to the location, I quickly realized I was out in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't often I didn't know where I was, because I had to travel all over the place for the company. I was in the boonies. It was kind of nice to get away from the noise of the city. I don't think a lot of people appreciate the silence because they just don't know what true silence sounds like. I wouldn't mind living out here. Sales pitches were whirling through my head. I needed to sound like I wasn't trying to upsell her or anything, but I had to be sly enough to make her want to get the bigger and better models over the others, even if she didn't need it. That train of thought makes me feel slimy, like the stereotypical used car salesman, but I needed the commission. I needed food in my house. I quickly approached the address as the GPS shouted that I had 1 mile to go. There was nothing but trees, swamp, and a bug buffet on my windshield. I approached the house and I parked in the driveway, if you want to call it that. Her driveway was completely riddled with grass and weeds, with remnants of gravel thrown about. She probably doesn't go out much. Most likely has a family member that brings her groceries and her other needs. I looked in the mirror and I noticed the dark bags under my eyes. What I wouldn't give for 10 more minutes of sleep. But there is no time for sleep. I could be headed to the grocery store after this. What a thrill. I began walking to her front door while in my mini war with the mosquitoes. The swamp undoubtedly producing them, but it seemed like a rather large amount for that time of day. Shouldn't they all be sleeping still? Perhaps not, I'm not a mosquito expert. The house looked old and tore up. The siding was falling apart and the shingles atop the roof had seen better days. Her garden in the front lawn was all but dead. Garden maintenance be damned. I loudly knocked on the door when I suddenly heard breathing behind me. I turned my head to look and I saw an old woman. I jumped higher than a kid playing on a pogo stick. I probably looked completely ridiculous. "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. I didn't expect someone to be behind me. I assumed you're the one who called Vacuum & Go inquiring about a product expert to come around and show you our vacuums." She didn't respond to me. She only looked me in the eyes with a dead expression. Maybe she was a deaf or a mute. Perhaps someone else had called in for her. She had almost no hair and was bent over because of her back. She had a robe on and had cloudy blue eyes. Her skin was tight to her skeletal, hollowed-out face. I could almost see through it. I hastily noticed she had a bunch of mosquitoes crawling on her face, but she didn't seem to mind at all, or even notice. I didn't know what to say, so I asked her if she would excuse me while I brought in the 5 vacuums. She slowly walked past me and went in the front door, keeping it open for my entry. I stood there for a moment, bewildered at the strange occurrences that had just happened. Odd, I thought, but I had a job to do. I just wanted to get out of this mosquito-riddled area as quickly as possible. Plus, this woman kind of creeped me out. I walked to my van and put the vacuums on the cart to bring them all in at once. As I started walking towards her open door, I glanced at the foggy window. She was standing there and staring at me. I put on a fake smile, not knowing if she saw me look over her way. I walked in the house and I took off my shoes, as that was company policy. The main entrance led directly to her living room, where the floor was nice and open. In fact, she didn't even have any furniture. Nothing to even sit on. Perhaps she had a friend or a family member come over to move everything because she knew I would demo the products. It made it easy for me, I thought. The woman was still standing by the window with her eyes fixated on me. The mosquitoes were still on her face, but she paid no attention to them. Stoic, I thought. I found myself swatting away the pesky bugs as there was an obnoxious amount of them inside her house. I asked if she would let me close the door, but she only stared with her emotionless, deadpan look. An awkwardness filled the air and I became more uncomfortable. I closed the door slowly, seeing if she would react to my action. She simply kept standing there looking at me with her bug-ridden face. When she blinked, I saw mosquitoes sitting on her eyelids. Blinking was the most life I saw on her, other than seeing her walk into her house. I asked if she had any animals, as that would change what I demoed, but she didn't respond. Shocking. I shrugged and plugged in the first vacuum, lifting it off the cart. I explained what the particular vacuum I was using was good for, and I started vacuuming a small area of the carpet. I shut the vacuum off and I turned around to see if she had any reaction, but she wasn't by the window anymore. I quickly looked around the room and I wondered where she could have gone. The vacuum was loud, so I wouldn't have been able to hear her move. I looked in the right corner of the room and found where she went. She was on all fours like a dog, sniffing the carpet, completely naked. Her bony legs keeping her back up while her hands supported her front. The skin on her back was covered with large mosquito eggs which looked like beehives. Her cloudy blue eyes were still staring at me while she was sniffing the carpet. I started to back up as she crawled closer to me, her eyes never leaving mine. I wanted to get the hell out of there. Fuck the commission, this was not worth it. My back slammed against the door and I turned around to try and open it, but it was locked. Open! Screaming at the top of my lungs, hoping my plea would suddenly make the door come to life. It must have locked when I shut it, but there was no visible way of unlocking it. I was stuck with this human mosquito like an animal in a zoo. I ran to the other side of the room to avoid her progress upon me, my bones shivering with fear. Her crawl rapidly quickened as she darted across the room towards me. I couldn't move fast enough to avoid her. Her speed was incredible. She opened her mouth and started sucking on my exposed leg. She didn't have any teeth, it was just saliva and gum. But her slimy mouth wouldn't let my leg go. Her suction was too strong. I kicked her in the face with my free foot and she released her grip. She was lying flat on the floor with her blue evil eyes finally closed. At least I didn't have to look at them anymore. I ran towards the door and I tried to open it again, thinking I may have missed something or I wasn't pulling hard enough the first time. But it was to no avail. A slimy popping sound suddenly arose. It sounded like water being slushed around in your mouth. I instantly looked behind me at the old woman lying on the floor, and suddenly my knockoff toast crunch came spewing out of my mouth. The eggs on her back started pussing a green oozy substance, while it trailed down her sides. Small, tiny mosquitoes in the thousands started appearing out of the green filth. Her back was quickly covered with the small insects, which made it look as though her back was alive. The house was filled with nothing but buzzing. The sound was deafening. I had to get out, or else I would be eaten alive. I picked the smallest vacuum up and I tossed it through the foggy old window where the mosquito lady once stood. I climbed out shoeless and I ran to the van only to behold that mosquitoes were swarming inside of it like angry bees. There was no way I was going to climb in there. Not after what I saw. I looked at the house once more and I saw the woman standing by the newly broken window looking out at me. She opened her mouth slowly and mosquitoes began to crawl out of her throat. I could see them beating against her throat as they came up and out of her mouth. Her eyes were completely open with her mouth agape. I turned around and I ran as fast as I could to get anywhere other than where I was currently. I am now sitting at my apartment, mosquito bites aplenty. I've been itching for days with no relief in sight. I went to see my boss and he told me to take a week to recover after I told him my story. My skin has started peeling off everywhere in my body because of my vigorous clawing. I taped up my arms a couple days ago in a desperate attempt to stop itching, but it didn't work. I scratched it off. I needed to itch the skin. However, when I took it off, I glanced down at my wound. I noticed there were tiny little eggs starting to glow in the grooves of my flesh where the skin used to be. The harvest has begun.